A corrective lens is a lens typically worn in front of the eye to improve vision. The most common use is to treat refractive errors, myopia, hypermetropia, astigmatism, and presbyopia. Glasses or spectacles are worn on the face a short distance in front of the eye. Contact lenses are worn directly on the surface of the eye. Intraocular lenses are surgically implanted most commonly after cataract removal, but can be used for purely refractive purposes. Prescription of corrective lenses. Corrective lenses are typically prescribed by an ophthalmologist or an optometrist. The prescription consists of all the specifications necessary to make the lens. Prescriptions typically include the power specifications of each lens, for each eye. Strengths are generally prescribed in quarter diopter steps, 0.25d, because most people cannot generally distinguish between smaller increments, e.g., 8th diopter steps /0.125d. The use of improper corrective lenses may not be helpful and can even exacerbate binocular vision disorders. Eye care professionals, optometrists and ophthalmologists, are trained to determine the specific corrective lenses that will provide the clearest, most comfortable, and most efficient vision, avoiding double vision and maximizing binocularity. Components of a spherocylindrical correction. Sphere component. Every corrective lens prescription includes a spherical correction in diopters. Convergent powers are positive, e.g., plus 4.00d, and condense light to correct for farsightedness, hyperopia, or allow the patient to read more comfortably, see presbyopia and binocular vision disorders. Divergent powers are negative, e.g., 3.75d, and spread out light to correct for nearsightedness, myopia. If neither convergence nor divergence is required in the prescription, Plano is used to denote a refractive power of 0. The term sphere comes from the geometry of lenses. Lenses derive their power from curved surfaces. A spherical lens has the same curvature in every direction perpendicular to the optical axis. Spherical lenses are adequate correction when a person has no astigmatism. To correct for astigmatism, the cylinder and axis components specify how a particular lens is different from a lens composed of purely spherical surfaces. Cylinder component. Patients with astigmatism need a toric lens to see clearly. The geometry of a toric lens focuses light differently in different meridians. A meridian in this case is a plane that is perpendicular to the optical axis. For example, a toric lens, when rotated correctly, could focus an object to the image of a horizontal line at one focal distance while focusing a vertical line to a separate focal distance. The power of a toric lens can be specified by describing how the cylinder, the meridian that is most different from the spherical power, differs from the spherical power. Power evenly transitions between the two powers in moving from the meridian with the most convergence to the meridian with the least convergence. For regular toric lenses, these powers are perpendicular to each other and their location relative to vertical and horizontal are specified by the axis component. There are two different conventions for indicating the amount of cylinder, plus cylinder notation and minus cylinder notation. In the former, the cylinder power is a number of diopters more convergent than the sphere power. That means the spherical power describes the most divergent meridian and the cylindrical component describes the most convergent. In the minus cylinder notation, the cylinder power is a number of diopters more divergent than the sphere component. In this convention, the sphere power describes the most convergent meridian and the cylinder component describes the most divergent. Europe typically follows the plus cylinder convention while in the US the minus cylinder notation is used by optometrists and the plus cylinder notation is used by ophthalmologists. Minus cylinder notation is also more common in Asia, although either style may be encountered there. There is no difference in these forms of notation and it is easy to convert between them. Add the sphere and cylinder numbers together to produce the converted sphere. Invert the sign of cylinder value. Add 90 degrees to axis value, and if the new axis value exceeds 180 degrees, subtract 180 degrees from the result. For example, a lens with a vertical power of -3.75 and a horizontal power of -2.25 could be specified as either -2.25 -1.50 x 180 or -3.75 plus 1.50 x 090. Axis component. The axis defines the location of the sphere and cylinder powers. The name axis comes from the concept of generating a cylinder by rotating a line around an axis. The curve of that cylinder is 90 degrees from that axis of rotation. When dealing with toric lenses, the axis defines the orientation of the steepest and flattest curvatures relative to horizontal and vertical. The 3 o'clock position is defined as 0, and the 90th meridian is a vertical line. A horizontal line passes through both 0 and the 180th meridians. By convention, a horizontal axis is recorded as 180. In a regular toric lens, the flattest and steepest curvatures are separated by 90 degrees. As a result, the axis of the cylinder is also the meridian with the same power as the recorded sphere power. The cylinder power, as defined above, is the power that is most different from the sphere power. Because they are defined relative to each other, it is important to know if the lens is being described in minus cylinder notation, where the sphere power is the most convergent/least divergent power. When using plus cylinder notation, the opposite is true. If the lens is spherical, there is no cylinder component, then there is no need for an axis. A prescription like this is written with ds, diopters sphere, after the sphere power, e.g., 3.00 ds. This verifies that the prescription is truly spherical rather than the cylinder power being omitted in error. Summary. Correction power is measured in diopters. By convention, an axis of 90 degrees is vertical, 0 degrees or 180 degrees are horizontal. If the cylinder power is positive, the lens is most convergent 90 degrees from the axis. If the cylinder power is negative, the lens is most divergent 90 degrees from the axis. If the cylinder power is 0, the lens is spherical and has the same power in every meridian. Sample prescription. A prescription of 1.00 plus 0.25 x 180 describes a lens that has a horizontal power of 1.00 d and a vertical power of 0.75. Over-the-counter correction. Ready-made single-vision reading glasses go by many names, including over-the-counter glasses, ready readers, cheaters, magnifiers, non-prescription readers, or generic readers. They are designed to lessen the focusing burden of near work, such as reading. They are typically sold in retail locations such as pharmacies and grocery stores, but are also available in bookstores and clothing retailers. They are available in common reading prescriptions with strengths ranging from plus 0.75 to plus 3.50 diopters. While these magnifiers do indeed make the image of the viewed object bigger, their main advantage comes from focusing the image, not magnification. These glasses are not tailored to a person's individual needs. A difference in refractive error between the eyes or presence of astigmatism will not be accounted for. People with little to no need for correction in the distance may find off-the-shelf glasses work quite well for seeing better during near-vision tasks. But if the person has a significant need for distance correction, it is less likely that the over-the-counter glasses will be perfectly effective. Although such glasses are generally considered safe, an individual prescription, as determined by an ophthalmologist or optometrist and made by a qualified optician, usually results in better visual correction and fewer headaches and visual discomfort. Another criticism of over-the-counter glasses is that they may alleviate symptoms, causing a person to forego the other benefits of routine vision exams, such as early diagnosis of chronic disease. Self-refraction. Although lenses are normally prescribed by optometrists or ophthalmologists, there is evidence from developing countries that allowing people to select lenses for themselves produces good results in the majority of cases and is less than a tenth of the cost of prescription lenses. Lens types. Single vision. Single vision lenses correct for only one distance. If they correct for far distance, the person must accommodate to see clearly up close. If the person cannot accommodate, they may need a separate correction for near distances, or else use a multifocal lens, see below. Reading glasses are single-vision lenses designed for near work, and include over-the-counter glasses. They come in two main styles: full frames, in which the entire lens is made in the reading prescription, and half-eyes, style glasses that sit lower down on the nose. Full-frame readers must be removed to see distance clearly, while the distance can be clearly viewed over the top of half-eye readers. Bifocal. A bifocal is a lens with two sections, separated by a line, see image to the right. Generally, the upper part of the lens is used for distance vision, while the lower segment is used for near vision. The area of the lens that caters to near vision is called the ad segment. There are many different shapes, sizes, and positions for the ad segment that are selected for functional differences as well as the visual demands of the patient. Bifocals allow people with presbyopia to see clearly at distance and near without having to remove the glasses, which would be required with single vision correction. Trifocal. Trifocal lenses are similar to bifocals, except that the two focal areas are separated by a third area, with intermediate focus correction, in the middle. This segment corrects the wearer's vision for intermediate distances roughly at arm's length, e.g. computer distance. This lens type has two segment lines, dividing the three different correcting segments. Progressive. Progressive addition or varifocal lenses provide a smooth transition from distance correction to near correction, eliminating segment lines and allowing clear vision at all distances, including intermediate, roughly arm's length. The lack of any abrupt change in power and the uniform appearance of the lens gives rise to the name no-line bifocal. Multifocal. Multifocal contact lenses, e.g. bifocals or progressives, are comparable to spectacles with bifocals or progressive lenses because they have multiple focal points. Multifocal contact lenses are typically designed for constant viewing through the center of the lens, but some designs do incorporate a shift in lens position to view through the reading power, similar to bifocal glasses. Adjustable focus. The power or focal length of adjustable or variable focus can be changed to suit the needs of the wearer. A typical application of such a lens is to refocus the correction, allowing clear vision at any distance. Unlike with bifocals, near vision correction is achieved over the entire field of view, in any direction. Switching between distance and near vision is accomplished by readjusting the lens, instead of by tilting and/or rotating the head. The need for constant adjustment when the person's attention switches to an object at a different distance is a design challenge of such a lens. Manual adjustment is more cumbersome than bifocals or similar lenses. Automated systems require electronic systems, power supplies, and sensors that increase the cost, size, and weight of the correction. Plano. A corrective lens with a power of 0 is called a plano lens. These lenses are used when one or both eyes do not require correction of a refractive error. Some people with good natural eyesight like to wear eyeglasses as a style accessory, or want to change the appearance of their eyes using novelty contact lenses. Lens optical profile. Although corrective lenses can be produced in many different profiles, the most common is ophthalmic or convex concave. In an ophthalmic lens, both the front and back surface have a positive radius, resulting in a positive/convergent front surface and a negative/divergent back surface. The difference in curvature between the front and rear surface leads to the corrective power of the lens. In hyperopia, a convergent lens is needed, therefore the convergent front surface overpowers the divergent back surface. For myopia, the opposite is true, the divergent back surface is greater in magnitude than the convergent front surface. To correct for presbyopia, the lens, or section of the lens, must be more convergent or less divergent than the person's distance lens. The base curve, usually determined from the profile of the front surface of an ophthalmic lens, can be changed to result in the best optic and cosmetic characteristics across the entire surface of the lens. Optometrists may choose to specify a particular base curve when prescribing a corrective lens for either of these reasons. A multitude of mathematical formulas and professional clinical experience has allowed optometrists and lens designers to determine standard base curves that are ideal for most people. As a result, the front surface curve is more standardized and the characteristics that generate a person's unique prescription are typically derived from the geometry of the back surface of the lens. Bifocals and trifocals. Bifocals and trifocals result in a more complex lens profile, compounding multiple surfaces. The main lens is composed of a typical ophthalmic lens. Thus the base curve defines the front surface of the main part of the lens while the back surface geometry is changed to achieve the desired distance power. The bifocal is a third spherical segment, called an ad segment, found on the front surface of the lens. Steeper and more convergent than the base curve, the ad segment combines with the back surface to deliver the person's near correction. Early manufacturing techniques fused a separate lens to the front surface, but modern processes cut all the geometry into a single piece of lens material. There are many locations, profiles, and sizes of ad segments, typically referred to as segment type. Some seg type examples include flat top, cryptoke, orthogon, tailor executive, and Ultex. Trifocals contain two ad segments to achieve a lens that corrects the person's vision for three distinct distances. The optical center of the ad segment may be placed on the lens surface or may hang off into empty space near the lens surface. Although the surface profile of a bifocal segment is spherical, it is often trimmed to have straight edges so that it is contained within a small region of the overall lens surface. Progressive lens. The progressive addition lens, PAL, also commonly called a no-line or varifocal lens, eliminates the line in bi/trifocals and is very complex in its profile. PALs are a continuously variable parametric surface that begins using one spherical surface base curve and ends at another, with the radius of curvature continuously varying as the transition is made from one surface to the other. This shift in curvature results in different powers being delivered from different locations on the lens. Vertex distance. Vertex distance is the space between the front of the eye and the back surface of the lens. In glasses with powers beyond plus or minus 4.00 d, the vertex distance can affect the effective power of the glasses. A shorter vertex distance can expand the field of view, but if the vertex distance is too small, the eyelashes will come into contact with the back of the lens, smudging the lens and causing annoyance for the patient. A skilled frame stylist will help the patient select a good balance of fashionable frame size with good vertex distance in order to achieve ideal aesthetics and field of view. The average vertex distance in a pair of glasses is 12 to 14 mm. A contact lens is placed directly on the eye and thus has a vertex distance of 0. Refractive index. In the UK and the US, the refractive index is generally specified with respect to the yellow Hedi-Fraunhofer line, commonly abbreviated as ND. Lens materials are classified by their refractive index, as follows. Normal index, 1.48 less than or equal to ND 1.54. Mid index, 1.54 less than or equal to ND 1.60. High index, 1.60 less than or equal to ND 1.74. Very high index, 1.76 less than or equal to ND. This is a general classification. Indexes of ND values that are greater than or equal to 1.60 can be, often for marketing purposes, referred to as high index. Likewise, Trifocals and other borderline normal/mid index materials may be referred to as mid index. Advantages of higher indices. Thinner, sometimes lighter lenses, see below. Improved UV protection over CR39 and glass lenses. Disadvantages of increased indices. Lower Abbe number, meaning, amongst other things, increased chromatic aberration. Poorer light transmission and increased backside and inner surface reflections, see Fresnel reflection equation, increasing the importance of anti-reflective coating. Manufacturing defects have more impact on optical quality. Theoretically, off-axis optical quality degrades, oblique astigmatic error. In practice this degradation should not be perceptible. Current frame styles are much smaller than they would have to be for these aberrations to be noticeable to the patient, the aberration occurring some distance away from the optical center of the lens, off-axis. Optical quality. Abbe number. Of all of the properties of a particular lens material, the one that most closely relates to its optical performance is its dispersion, which is specified by the Abbe number. Lower Abbe numbers result in the presence of chromatic aberration, i.e., color fringes above/below or to the left/right of a high contrast object, especially in larger lens sizes and stronger prescriptions, beyond plus or minus 4.00D. Generally, lower Abbe numbers are a property of mid and higher index lenses that cannot be avoided, regardless of the material used. The Abbe number for a material at a particular refractive index formulation is usually specified as its Abbe value. In practice, a change from 30 to 32 Abbe will not have a practically noticeable benefit, but a change from 30 to 47 could be beneficial for users with strong prescriptions that move their eyes and look off-axis of optical center of the lens. Note that some users do not sense color fringing directly but will just describe off-axis blurriness. Abbe values even as high as that of VD less than or equal to 45 produce chromatic aberrations which can be perceptible to a user in lenses larger than 40 mm in diameter and especially in strengths that are in excess of plus or minus 4D. At plus or minus 8D even glass, VD less than or equal to 58, produces chromatic aberration that can be noticed by a user. Chromatic aberration is independent of the lens being of spherical, aspheric, or a toric design. The eye's Abbe number is independent of the importance of the corrective lens's Abbe, since the human eye moves to keep the visual axis close to its achromatic axis, which is completely free of dispersion, i.e., to see the dispersion one would have to concentrate on points in the periphery of vision, where visual clarity is quite poor. Is very insensitive, especially to color, in the periphery, i.e., at retinal points distant from the achromatic axis and thus not falling on the fovea, where the cone cells responsible for color vision are concentrated. See Anatomy and Physiology of the Retina. In contrast, the eye moves to look through various parts of a corrective lens as it shifts its gaze, some of which can be as much as several centimeters off of the optical center. Thus, despite the eye's dispersive properties, the corrective lens's dispersion cannot be dismissed. People who are sensitive to the effects of chromatic aberrations, or who have stronger prescriptions, or who often look off the lens's optical center, or who prefer larger corrective lens sizes may be impacted by chromatic aberration. To minimize chromatic aberration, try to use the smallest vertical lens size that is comfortable. Generally, chromatic aberrations are more noticeable as the pupil moves vertically below the optical center of the lens, e.g., reading or looking at the ground while standing or walking. Keep in mind that a smaller vertical lens size will result in a greater amount of vertical head movement, especially while performing activities that involve short and intermediate distance viewing, which could lead to an increase in neck strain, especially in occupations involving a large vertical field of view. Restrict the choice of lens material to the highest Abbe value at acceptable thickness. The oldest, most basic commonly used lens materials also happen to have the best optical characteristics at the expense of corrective lens thickness, i.e., cosmetics. Newer materials have focused on improved cosmetics and increased impact safety, at the expense of optical quality. Lenses sold in the USA must pass the Food and Drug Administration ball drop impact test, and depending on needed index these seem to currently have best-in-class Abbe vs index, ND glass, 2x weight of plastics, or CR39, 2 mm versus 1.5 mm thickness typical on newer materials, 58 at 1.5, Sola Spectralite, 47 at 1.53, Sola Phenolite, 43 at 1.6, and Hoya Airy, 36 at 1.7. For impact resistance safety glass is offered at a variety of indexes at high Abbe number, but is still 2x the weight of plastics. Polycarbonate, VD equals 30-32, is very dispersive, but has excellent shatter resistance. Trifocals, VD equals 43 at 1.53, is also heavily marketed as an impact-resistant alternative to polycarbonate, for individuals who don't need polycarbonate's index. Trifocals is also one of the lightest materials available. Use contact lenses in place of eyeglasses. A contact lens rests directly on the surface of the cornea and moves in sync with all eye movements. Consequently, the contact lens is always directly aligned on center with the pupil and there is never any off-axis misalignment between the pupil and the optical center of the lens. Power error. Power error is the change in the optical power of a lens as the eye looks through various points on the area of the lens. Generally, it is least present at the optic center and gets progressively worse as one looks towards the edges of the lens. The actual amount of power error is highly dependent on the strength of the prescription as well as whether a best spherical form of lens or an optically optimal aspherical form was used in the manufacture of the lens. Generally, best spherical form lenses attempt to keep the ocular curve between 4 and 7 diopters. Lens-induced oblique astigmatism. As the eye shifts its gaze from looking through the optical center of the corrective lens, the lens-induced astigmatism value increases. In a spherical lens, especially one with a strong correction whose base curve is not in the best spherical form, such increases can significantly impact the clarity of vision in the periphery. Minimizing power error and lens-induced astigmatism. As corrective power increases, even optimally designed lenses will have distortion that can be noticed by a user. This particularly affects individuals that use the off-axis areas of their lenses for visually demanding tasks. For individuals sensitive to lens errors, the best way to eliminate lens-induced aberrations is to use contact lenses. Contacts eliminate all these aberrations since the lens then moves with the eye. Barring contacts, a good lens designer doesn't have many parameters which can be traded off to improve vision. Index has little effect on error. Note that, although chromatic aberration is often perceived as blurry vision in the lens periphery and gives the impression of power error, this is actually due to color shifting. Chromatic aberration can be improved by using a material with improved abe. The best way to combat lens-induced power error is to limit the choice of corrective lens to one that is in the best spherical form. A lens designer determines the best form spherical curve using the Oswald curve on the Tscherning ellipse. This design gives the best achievable optical quality and least sensitivity to lens fitting. A flatter base curve is sometimes selected for cosmetic reasons. A spheric or a toric design can reduce errors induced by using a suboptimal flatter base curve. They cannot surpass the optical quality of a spherical best form lens, but can reduce the error induced by using a flatter than optimal base curve. The improvement due to flattening is most evident for strong far-sighted lenses. High myopes, 6D, may see a slight cosmetic benefit with larger lenses. Mild prescriptions will have no perceptible benefit, 2D. Even at high prescriptions, some high myope prescriptions with small lenses may not see any difference, since some aspheric lenses have a spherically designed center area for improved vision and fit. In practice, labs tend to produce pre-finished and finished lenses in groups of narrow power ranges to reduce inventory. Lens powers that fall into the range of the prescriptions of each group share a constant base curve. For example, corrections from -4.00D to -4.50D may be grouped and forced to share the same base curve characteristics, but the spherical form is only best for a -4.25D prescription. In this case, the error will be imperceptible to the human eye. However, some manufacturers may further cost-reduce inventory and group over a larger range, which will result in perceptible error for some users in the range who also use the off-axis area of their lens. Additionally, some manufacturers may verge toward a slightly flatter curve. Although if only a slight bias toward plano is introduced, it may be negligible cosmetically and optically. These optical degradations due to base curve grouping also apply to aspherics, since their shapes are intentionally flattened and then asphericized to minimize error for the average base curve in the grouping. Cosmetics and weight. Reducing lens thickness. Note that the greatest cosmetic improvement on lens thickness and weight is had from choosing a frame which holds physically small lenses. The smallest of the popular adult lens sizes available in retail outlets is about 50 mm, 2.0 in, across. There are a few adult sizes of 40 mm, 1.6 in, and although they are quite rare, can reduce lens weight to about half of the 50 mm versions. The curves on the front and back of a lens are ideally formed with the specific radius of a sphere. This radius is set by the lens designer based on the prescription and cosmetic consideration. Selecting a smaller lens will mean less of this sphere surface is represented by the lens surface, meaning the lens will have a thinner edge, myopia, or center, hyperopia. A thinner edge reduces light entering into the edge, reducing an additional source of internal reflections. Extremely thick lenses for myopia can be beveled to reduce flaring out of the very thick edge. Thick myopic lenses are not usually mounted in wire frames, because the thin wire contrasts against the thick lens, to make its thickness much more obvious to others. Index can improve the lens thinness, but at a point no more improvement will be realized. For example, if an index and lens size is selected with center-to-edge thickness difference of 1 mm, then changing index can only improve thickness by a fraction of this. This is also true with aspheric design lenses. The lens's minimum thickness can also be varied. The FDA ball drop test, 5/8 0.56 ounce steel ball dropped from 50 inches, effectively sets the minimum thickness of materials. Glass or CR39 requires 2.0 mm, but some newer materials only require 1.5 mm or even 1 mm minimum thickness. Weight. Material density typically increases as lens thickness is reduced by increasing index. There is also a minimum lens thickness required to support the lens shape. These factors results in a thinner lens which is not lighter than the original. There are lens materials with lower density at higher index which can result in a truly lighter lens. These materials can be found in a material property table. Reducing frame lens size will give the most noticeable improvement in weight for a given material. Ways to reduce the weight and thickness of corrective lenses, in approximate order of importance, are these. Choose glasses frames with small lenses, that is to say, so that the longest measurement across the lens at any angle is as short as possible. This gives the greatest advantage of all. Choose a frame that allows the pupil to occupy the exact middle point of the lens. Choose a lens as near round as possible. These are less commonly found than other shapes. Choose as high a refractive index for the lens material as cost permits. It is not always possible to follow the above points, because of the rarity of such frames, and the need for more pleasing appearance. However, these are the main factors to consider if ever it should become necessary and possible to do so. Facial distortion and social stigma. Eyeglasses for a high diopter nearsighted or farsighted person cause a visible distortion of his or her face as seen by other people, in the apparent size of the eyes and facial features visible through the eyeglasses. For extreme nearsightedness, the eyes appear small and sunken into the face, and the sides of the skull can be visible through the lens. This gives the wearer the appearance of having a very large or fat head in contrast with their eyes. For extreme farsightedness, the eyes appear very large on the face, maki.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.